Bring in Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, chairman of the Judiciary Committee. I think they're getting ready there, if they can hear me, and former New Jersey Governor Tom Kean, who is chairing a task force on fighting extremism. Gentlemen, can you hear me there?
I can.
Okay, good to hear.
Can you hear, Tom?
I can hear, but not well.
Okay, let me start with Senator Graham.
I'll translate.
Okay. Senator Graham, can I just get a quick thought from you?
That's the problem.
Can I just get a quick thought from you, Senator Graham, about this national emergency vote?
Yeah.
You're a lawyer. You've been a creature of the Senate. You understand all of these things. Can you understand that there are some Republican colleagues of yours who are objecting to this on principle?
Well, I don't want to criticize my colleagues, but as a lawyer, the president is on firm legal ground. This is a specific statute that allows the president to move money around for a national emergency. And here's what happened in 2014. President Obama declared a humanitarian crisis at the southern border because we apprehended 120,000 unaccompanied minors. We've already apprehended that many this year. Every problem at the border since 2014's gotten worse. I've been in every gang you can think of to solve the immigration problem, right? Starting with Bush 43. Not one time did a Democrat ever suggest to me that we didn't have a problem at the border. In 2013, we appropriated $44 billion for border security, $9 billion for barriers. What's manufactured is that it's not a crisis. So to my Republican colleagues, the statute in question is very specific and limited. The president has the legal authority. The only question is there really a crisis at our border? If you don't believe the president, go down there and check it out for yourself. But ask the people who are in charge of securing the border. They will tell you we have a crisis. I hope Republicans will hold.
Freshman Democrat socialist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the author of the Green New Deal, and now questioning if people should stop having children for the sake of saving the planet. Watch.
There's scientific consensus that the lives of children are going to be very difficult, and it does lead, I think, young people to have a legitimate question. Is it okay to still have children? Also, just this basic moral question, like, what do we do? And even if you don't have kids, there are still children here in the world, and we have a moral obligation to them to leave a better world for them.
Joining me now, President Trump's 2020 senior advisor for the campaign, Lara Trump. Good to see you.
Hi.
Welcome back. So her argument is that because climate change is so daunting, that you might not want to have children, and she understands how people would feel that way.
Well, let's start out by saying she began this whole video series by pouring herself a glass of wine. So maybe that played into kind of the rambling, a little bit of nonsense
She's
we
making
heard
like
there.
Vegetarian chili or something. It's like doesn't
potato.
everyone across America just set up the phone and start talking into it while you're making dinner?
I mean, I don't know that anybody can put a whole lot of weight into this. It's a little bit crazy. And, our birth rate is going down in this country right now. So by her possibly encouraging people against having children, listen, you don't want the birth rate to get too low. It's actually very detrimental to a country in the future. So I don't think we can give her a whole lot of credit for much here, but just something to tack on to the list of, I guess, kind of nonsensical things that she does sometimes say.
Yeah, I mean, she's railing on plastic bags as well. And as you put, I just think it's an unoptimistic sort of outlook.
Yeah.
I mean, Americans love to,
kids
have your kids, create the next generation. But obviously she feels like there might be some danger involved in that. Here is Senator Dianne Feinstein, who was confronted by some small children who wanted to convince her that she also needed to get on board with the Green New Deal. Watch this.
The government is supposed to be for the people and by the people and all for the people.
What's interesting about this group is I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what I'm doing. You come in here and you say it has to be my way or the highway.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know what to say about that. It's so funny.
It sounds like she's lecturing them.
She was not happy.
Listen, but actually what you see there is a little bit scary, Martha, because what is happening in this country is that our kids are being indoctrinated with all this nonsense. The Green New Deal, a new study just said it would cost $92 trillion that if every single family in this country paid $600,000, it would barely cover the cost of it. I don't know about you, but that is a little outrageous, and I don't think anyone is going to get behind that. So now the kids are on top of it. I don't actually know what I would have said to them if they'd have confronted me. So I guess
like, you just wait a minute. Hold on. I'm used to that. I've been doing this for 30 years. Don't tell me how to do my job. And speaking of doing your job, one of your jobs is to make sure they're raising a lot of money for the Trump campaign.
Yes.
Politico headline says that the Trump campaign lacks a strategy to win in 2020, despite the fact they've raised $130 million in the last year. What do you say to that?
Oh, that is such nonsense. First of all, I will say our campaign manager, Brad Parscale, is doing an incredible job. We are light years, Martha, ahead of where we were at the same point in the campaign for 2016 that we are today. We are very organized. We have boots on the ground. We have our state directors falling into place. Everything is in perfect place. And the best part is the president is doing, again, such a good job. I always say it, but a good job for us at the campaign. So our job is going to be easy.
So Joe Biden, we're still waiting to hear whether or not Joe Biden's going to get into the race. But Washington Times reporting today that he's looking at creating a coalition that looks a lot like the coalition that elected your father-in-law. Men, people who with high school educations in many cases, older voters, a coalition that we saw in parts of western Pennsylvania and Michigan, parts of Ohio. What do you say to that? I mean, is Joe Biden the one that concerns you when you look at 2020?
You know what? Joe Biden was in there with President Obama for 8 long years, and we saw a whole lot of nothing happen during the Obama administration. I am not concerned about Joe Biden. I'm not concerned about anybody that I've seen get in the race so far. The reality is people want results in this country, and they're getting them delivered by our current president, Donald Trump, who is on his way overseas to have the second summit with Kim Jong-un to possibly denuclearize the Korean Peninsula. Those are things you can't ignore when you're talking about electing a president or re-electing a president. Joe Biden cannot say those
Well, let me ask you about that, because the last time they had the summit, President Trump came back and said, it's happening. You know, tremendous victory. They're going to denuclearize. He promised me that this is what was going to happen. And now he's heading over there and he's essentially saying, as long as there are no nuclear tests, we feel like that's a big win. I think the expectation has changed.
That is a huge win. When is the last time they had a nuclear test? When have they sent missiles over Japan? You have not seen any of this happen since that initial summit. And nobody thought that this would change overnight. And listen, I'm no strategist on this, but I can tell you I feel a lot safer about the place we're in with North Korea thanks to President Trump than I did 4 years ago. That is for sure. So listen, nobody knows what's going to happen. We're obviously dealing with a leader in Kim Jong-un who is very unpredictable, but you know what? Nobody has been able to do what President Trump has done. And as much as they try to argue against it, the mainstream media, the Democrats, they cannot argue with the fact that you have, again, not seen any nuclear testing. You haven't seen any missiles. So we're getting somewhere.
What about Venezuela? Just quickly, you know, there's a lot of Mike Pence, the vice president, just on his way back from there, a lot of concern. And the president seems to be standing very strongly by Juan Guaido. But this could get ugly.
Well, I think what people need to remember when you're talking about Venezuela is when you have people who are running for president in 2020 advocating for socialism, Venezuela is a perfect example of what we do not want to happen in the United States. And actually, the RNC just released a great video detailing the dangers of socialism. People on average have lost 24 pounds in Venezuela. 90% of the population lives below the poverty level. It's very dangerous. It's very upsetting. But yes, we stand by the Venezuelan people. And I think the president and vice president have been great in showing their support.
Laura Trump, thanks again. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming by.
We're trying to promote the Green New Deal. Well, there are reasons why I can't, because there's no way to pay for it. I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what I'm doing.
I don't think that working on an issue for 30 years alone is what qualifies, is what makes someone qualified to solve an issue.
Wow, I think that's a slap. Democratic Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez hitting back at Senator Dianne Feinstein and others she labels climate delayers after the senator told a group of children there's no way really to pay for the Green New Deal that's been proposed. Joining me now, Republican strategist Holly Turner, Democratic strategist Antoine Seawright. Holly, all she was saying, Dianne Feinstein here, is kids, you know, this isn't doable the way it stands now. She's not anti-climate change. She's just anti this approach to dealing with it, right?
Right. I mean, it was the most rational moment that a Democrat has had all year. I'm so glad that it was captured on film. But I mean, that poor little kid who said, we spend tons of money on the military. Why can't we just spend that here? I mean, this is horrible what the Democrats did in this situation. They tried to entrap one of their own to try and bully her into voting for something that's going to fail on the Senate floor. She is right. The senator's right. There is no way that we can afford this. I mean, in the past 300 years, we've spent $18 trillion on military in this country. The Green New Deal is going to cost us $100 trillion. I mean, it is just not affordable.
Antoine, do you think that this is about a bigger issue among Democrats, about who speaks for the heart and soul of the party here, those who embrace this green agenda that the Congresswoman does with Senator Markey of Massachusetts, but haven't looked under the hood to see that there's very little there or ways to about paying for that?
I think this is another lesson. This is what I call growing pains, and this is what we are experiencing in the Democratic Party. But my advice to AOC is to take a lesson from Jay-Z when he says nobody wins when the family feuds. And so her going out bashing Senator Feinstein is probably not good for the long-term health of our party. Legislation always evolves over time. Just because something starts out some way doesn't mean it has to end up that way. So instead of her working with the senator, working with her colleagues to come to a more realistic, pragmatic approach, she goes out and bashes them on camera for likes on social media, and that doesn't get us anywhere as a party, and it definitely doesn't get us anywhere as a country in solving this issue, because this issue cuts across party lines, and so I'm somewhat disappointed. All right.
You know, Holly, Republicans, as you pointed out, too, haven't been the best fiscal stewards. You didn't say that, but of course, with the spending on that they've had, they've done little to sort of rein it in. So both parties are to blame for, a lot of pie-in-the-sky goals without finding a way to pay for it or offer anything approaching fiscal sanity. Are you worried about that? And what these kids are brought up in a world, they see that and say, well, go ahead and just pay for it the way you usually do without paying for it.
Yeah, it absolutely is concerning. And I think it also brings up something that's really important. And, we laugh about the Green New Deal and it's, pie in the sky. But what it really is, it's not about climate change at all. I mean, the experts have said that even if the U.S. reduced its carbon emissions by 100%, it would have a negligible effect on the global temperature. So we know this is not about climate change.
So you're denying climate change?
No, I'm saying it would have a negligible effect on the climate. What I am saying is that this is about the massive redistribution of wealth. And Ocasio-Cortez has said it herself. This is a social justice bill. And so I think we need to be talking about the real issues here, and that is the socialist agenda that the Democratic Party has turned to. And that's what this is about. This is not about the climate.
Are you worried about just the fact that the party is getting concerned with what the Congresswoman is saying, that she might be leading them down crazy town?
Environmental injustice is a problem in this country. Absolutely. I'm glad the Democrats are the ones who want to blow the horn on the issue.
That she is not helping that cause?
No. I think what she's not doing is she's not helping our long-term goals as a party. And what I will say is the right-wing media has made her the media darling, so that sometimes comes off as a distraction. But this is a prime example in which...
Well, it's not the right-wing media that's bashing her now, right? Now
No. What I'm saying is every time she tweets or every time she does anything, it is an issue. It's mainstream for the right-wing media, and this is a prime example in which
it's mainstream
some of her.
For everyone. She speaks to the passionate party, right? Don't put it on the right-wing media. That's silly.
Cavuto, this is a prime example. This is a prime example of someone in her own party calling her out, saying, "Wait a minute, slow down."
That's right.
This is not the approach to take it.
All right.
So guys, she does not speak for the Democratic Party, to be clear, regardless of what the right wing says.
She is the new Democrat Party.
We'll see. We'll see what happens, guys. It is entertaining. All right. I appreciate both of you.